So I've decided I want to make a game prototype. Don't know whether I'm going to turn it into a full game or not in the end, but at the moment I'm feeling quite positive about it. And it's going to be a city builder based on hex tiles. It's heavily inspired by 3 games that I really love. Civilization, which I'm sure most of you have heard. I really loved that game with the hex tiles, and I was one of those people that wanted to rapidly expand and make my empire all over the world. So I really wanted to capture that. Another game, Settlers. And I really liked how you built your empire, but you didn't directly control the inhabitants in your empire, and they kind of worked for you. So I wanted to try to get that element where you weren't micro-controlling all of the units. So while in Civilization you might micro all of your units and move them all around, in Settlers you don't. So I wanted to try and take that element, in particular from Settlers, and from Civilization I wanted to take the world building. And then finally there's been a beautiful little indie game released lately called Dwarf Romantic. It's essentially a game where you just click tiles and complete some simple missions to build these beautiful worlds, and it is a really wonderful game, and I really like that sense of building that you got from placing down all the tiles. There have been a couple of other games I've seen around lately as well that use this placement of tiles. So I didn't necessarily want to go all that way and make a clone of that, but I wanted to try to take that building aspect and then turn it more into an empire or city building game like Settlers or Civilization. So that's kind of my goal of where I'm going to try and get to. And this first video is going to be just making some of the basic mechanics. I've never made a tile-based game before, and setting that up so that in the next video I'll be able to actually start doing some game development. So the first thing I did is I went to the Kenny website and I downloaded the hex tile set. I really love using these assets for prototyping. They're always really good and I have all the pivot points set in the right space. So I downloaded that and got it into my project. I then placed a few tiles so that I could get an idea of what the X, Y and Z positions needed to be in order to place the tiles. And while going across on the X, when going across on the X, it's a nice 1 unit per tile. However, going up and down, I found that 0.866 was the right number to get those hexagons to line up perfectly. Once I did that, I started writing some code. So my first effort at trying to get it so that I could place the tiles didn't quite go to plan. I was able to place them perfectly on a row, but the next row lined up as I forgot to allow for the offset. So now I've added an offset to each row. I found there was a problem. If I clicked in the perfect place, for example here, you can see that I'm making another tile that's just going over the top of the next one. And so my system wasn't quite reading where the tile should be placed correctly. And I worked out that if I was on the right hand side of the tile, it will place it incorrectly. So I added an allowance in to make sure that I placed whether it was the left or the right tile. And now you can see that problem has gone away and I can't actually make it happen anymore. So it always places the tile in the correct place. So just for some fun, I decided to make it so that I wasn't just placing the same tile and that a number of different random tiles would come out, just to get an idea of what it may look like when I was putting different types of tiles down. So this was all well and good, but then I figured I really wanted to see where I was going to place the tile before I placed it. And I also wanted to make it sure that when I placed the tile, I was only placing it at the edge. In the end, I want you to only be placing road tiles and building roads. However, for now, I'll be happy just to get it working at the edge. So I made this little selection tile. And you can see it kind of gives you a ghost area of where the tile is going to be. And so this is going to be just showing you where you're going to place your tile next. So I got my little thing showing me where I'm about to place a tile, and when I click it shows me on the new area. If I go further out, it doesn't show. And if I click anywhere else that's not connected, it won't place a tile. To this point, I'm starting to like how it's coming together, but I realise I need a whole bunch more functionality before I can actually get to prototyping the actual game development, which is really where I want to get to. So I often solve this by making a list. So I just write these out on a piece of paper, and I find if I have a list, I go through them. So the things I'm going to try and address next, I'm going to try and where I place the tile, rather than having this kind of white glow, I'm going to show the tile that's going to be placed. I want to be able to rotate that tile so that you can put it however you want on the hex grid. And then these kind of white see-through tiles, I think should be everywhere that you can place a tile. Then I want to make it so that when you click, it plays a sound. And when you rotate or something like that, it also makes a little sound. I'm just going to use placeholder sounds initially. I just want to try and get the functionality working. I want to add some bounce as it places it. At the moment, while it places it quickly, I think if there was a little bit of animation on the place, it would look far better. I want to be able to click on the tiles and just bring up an info panel. I want to we have a little stack. I like to have a little stack of tiles somewhere, like Dwarf Romantic, of the tiles that are coming. And I want to add a menu system, because I always find that once I've got a start menu, I can then start to work on the logic of getting into the game, starting the game, and ending the game. So I'm just going to work through these, and hopefully I'll tick everything off on this list, and then I'll be able to see how much more I need to do to start working on the actual gameplay. Okay, so now magically I've gone through everything in the list. I think I've actually done everything, so I'm pretty happy at the moment. So I'll show you how it's going. First of all, you can see it pops up with a main menu, and I can't place tiles or do anything while on the main menu. I like to get a menu going early. Obviously, this isn't going to be what it's going to look like. However, having the logic in place to allow you to have a place from where you start the game and then eventually end the game is great. And then able to add a game state that I can control how the game works. Once I've done that, I can do things like this in the camera controller, where I simply go, if the game isn't playing, return, so don't do any of the functionality. So let's start and have a look. So you can now see that every time I place a tile, all of the tiles around it are there. You'll notice also I can scroll my wheel, and you can see that I get a different rotation on each tile. Also, when I click, it makes a sound. They're just placeholder sounds for now. I made them with this BFXR program, which is kind of cool for making retro sounds. Probably not what I'll go with in the end, but I'm very happy with it as a general quick way to make sounds. They also have this nice little bounce every time you place them. Very much inspired by Dwarf Romantic. I really loved how placing of the tiles had a little bit of life. I used Surge to do that. So it's a tweening solution. It's free. It's by the people who used to make a thing called iTween. And you can see all of the reviews are really good. It's the first time I've used it, but I really loved using it. It just took me these 6 lines of code to get that nice kind of bouncing. And I know I could have animated it, but I'm somebody who likes to do things with code. And so for me, this really suits me. I've also got camera controls. You can right click to move around, and I've got some restraints so that you can't go into some weird positions, and hold down the middle mouse button and just pan around the world. I also made it so that when you clicked on the tile, you got info about it, and then you can't do anything or place any tiles while this is up until you close it again. Obviously there'll be some game info in here, but since I don't actually have a game yet, there's no info to really put here. I also created a little tile stack down the corner, and you can see that the next tile I'm going to get is going to be the tower, and then the one after that will be the rock. And so you can see this is kind of a little way to see what you're about to get and see what's coming so that you can plan ahead. Finally, as a little bit of a bonus, I put a hover, where if you hover over one of the tiles, it'll show some basic info about it. Again, obviously I need to make it look better, but as a proof of concept it works really nicely. I've also got inline sprites, so you can see here I've got some sprites inside the Text Mesh Pro object. And to have a look at that, you can see here it just goes sprite 0, sprite 1, sprite 2. And these are from a little icon sheet that I made. Again, I just used some of the candy assets. I put them on an embossed circular background. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. I feel like I now have some mechanics that work, and I can actually move on to making a little bit of a prototype for the game. That's what I'll do in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please let me know by liking, subscribing and commenting. It helps me know that I should make more of these videos. Next tutorial on my channel, which may not be up yet, but it'll be up in the next day or two, will be how to do these inline graphics inside your Text Mesh Pro objects, because I think it's really cool that you can do that. I hope you enjoy your game development.